So please welcome Fred Scholl.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask you to turn your attention to the video screen here for just a few minutes, okay?
I heard my wife start to cry. I haven't heard her cry since her grandmother died. I have prostate cancer? Who's going to be there to help Fran with her retirement? Her husband died. I'm her financial planner. Who's going to be at practice this week, making sure Tommy did his homework? He's the one that calls me Coach Fred. I gotta keep this from Sydney and Andrew. I can't let them watch me die. It's 6 months till I know if the cancer's even gone. I'm home on the couch. My wife Lisa's out buying adult Depends. But that's okay, because if I get through wearing those, my next step is some sort of feminine pad. Am I gonna be able to have sex again? 18 months till I know that. But today, I gotta get to the office when she gets home. There's a global financial crisis, and Ron, Jean, and Mary, and Frank, and Scott, they need me. Their money's protected. Joe and I have built the portfolios to withstand the global financial crisis, but I'm the one that helps them sleep at night. And what about my kids? Who's gonna teach them how to ski? Who's gonna walk Sydney down the aisle? And what about the kids I coach? They're the reason I'm Coach Fred. This is the third time I've heard my wife cry. We're in Paris on our 5th bridge of the day. We've really kissed on every one of them. We're still in love. You see, what changed everything was when I was able to trust her enough to sit her down and say, I'm scared. You're beautiful, young, healthy, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to satisfy you again. And she looked back at me, and she was amazed, and all she said was, but all I want is you. I got to Fran's house. Retirement's going good. Why is Fran crying? There's been a lot of tears lately. I asked Fran. She tells me she's crying because she's not worried that her money's gonna run out anymore. She's crying because she knows everything's gonna be okay. Last night, Tommy's mom was crying. You see, a note came home from the teacher. It was Tommy's best week of school. He was focused, productive, and did everything he was supposed to do, and the teacher just wanted to send a note home to his mom. But his mom just wanted to show me the note, because she said, it's you, Coach Fred. It's you who gets him to do his homework. You're the one he listens to. And now I'm on the mountain, the place I love the most, and I'm crying. What a gift. I just got to see Sydney fall in the trees and be scared, but get up, pick herself up, and look over to me. I smiled and said everything was gonna be okay, and she skied right back out onto the trail. How lucky am I to be here today? I'm Coach Fred.
And I'm Ameriprise Financial Advisor. Yeah. And I wouldn't be anywhere else. And I'm so excited to be here today and get to share my story with all of you about how I got knocked down and got back up again. But I'm going to need you to hang in there with me for a minute, because although you see it has a great ending, it wasn't always so great. And when it first started, I had no idea. I was just a regular guy who liked helping regular people, and I had no idea I was about to go on a journey that was going to change the way I think and feel and live my life. See, back in 1998, I was working for our company in the Traveler's Check division, and it was a paper product in a plastic world, so I knew I needed to look for a new opportunity. And I was housed with some financial advisors, and I would be leaving my office to go to the meetings with the bankers. We were going to have lunch and shake hands, and I saw this advisor, Bill Munn, and he was hugging his clients. What was that all about? Well, it's got to be a graduation party or retirement, right? Because that's what this thing's all about, right? So I became a financial advisor in 1999. I had a solid first year. My wife Lisa and I bought our first home, and we had a baby. And everything was going great. And I finished the first years, and it happened to be the time of the platform rollout. So I had about 25 clients, about $4 million in assets under management, and I went independent. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what you do, right? And then things started to change a little bit. The tech bubble burst, and somehow I was overpaid on the first year bonus. And then I walked in on a Friday, and there was a huge negative check. And I went a couple months without a paycheck. And somehow we got through. We just got by. It was just enough. But you see, I'd been sick, and I'd been burning the candle at both ends as a brand new advisor. You know the deal. In at 8 in the morning, getting home at 9, 10 at night, all over again the next day. I had diverticulitis. And as it went forward, all of a sudden my intestines ruptured. And I was home with my daughter, and I rushed to the hospital, and they made a big mistake. You see, they pumped me full of Demerol, and they sent me home. Yeah. Sent me home over the weekend because I was already scheduled for a CAT scan on Monday night. So I went home Saturday. Sunday was my mother's birthday. We threw a birthday party. Monday morning I got up, put on the suit and tie, and went to work. And I was poisoned. I was poisoned, peritonitis, septic shock. And I drove myself to the hospital Monday night, and they gave me that CAT scan, and they scurried around, and they came over and said, "Hey, Fred, we got to admit you." I said, "What?" "Yeah, we got to admit you." I said, "When?" They said, "Now." I said, No, I'm in short-term parking." Yeah, and I got to go home and see my daughter. I've got appointments tomorrow. No. And oh, by the way, I'm going skiing this weekend in Lake Tahoe to celebrate. No. So I spent the week in the hospital, and they had to get me stable enough to do surgery. And thankfully they did. And on Friday I had surgery, and it was an 8.5-hour surgery, but they couldn't complete it. And I woke up with 58 staples, drainage sites all over, and a colostomy bag. But geez, I had to go back to work, right? I had a wife, I had a new business, I had a baby, and I was scared in that hospital that day because, you see, I didn't have enough life insurance. No, the financial advisor, I called my dad in. I said, "Dad, I'm scared." I said, "I'm afraid I'm going to be a famous financial advisor." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Dad, I don't have enough life insurance for my kids." He said, "Your kids?" I said, "Oh yeah, Dad, we didn't tell you. Lisa's pregnant." My wife was pregnant. She was 4 weeks pregnant when this was happening. And I didn't have enough life insurance, and I was scared. What was the legacy I was going to leave these kids? But I made it through the surgery, and I went back to work because that's what I had to do. And then it was about 6 months later that I was able to go in and have the reversal surgery. They were going to put me back together again, right? So I went in to have my second surgery, another 8.5 hours, 58 more staples. They put me back together again, and I had to go back to work. And I'll never forget my first day back. It was a Monday, and I got 2 or 3 appointments. I remember getting 2 referrals, and I said to my partner, Joe, "I can't wait for tomorrow. This is going to be great. Keep this thing going again." Well, it was a Monday in September. Tomorrow was Tuesday, September 11th. It wasn't the day I thought it was going to be. It wasn't the day any of us thought it was going to be, right? I did what everybody else did. I went home, and I hugged my wife and my child. And somehow the sun came up the next morning, and we just all had to keep moving forward. And so I did. And things went okay. But unfortunately for me, I had developed all this scar tissue inside from the surgeries and the poisoning, and I had knots in my intestines. And for the next 2.5 years, I really couldn't digest food. They put me in and out of the hospital. I was on and off a liquid diet, and skinnier than I am now. And I found out that I was going to have a third surgery. They were going to go in and try to relieve this for me. And I was sitting in the doctor's office with my wife, Lisa, and for the first time through all this, I cried. I started to get a tear in my eye. My wife, Lisa, looked at me and she said, "Fred, what's wrong?" I said, "I can't believe I'm not going to be able to ski this winter." She said, "What? That's what you're going to cry about?" "Yes. Because that's what makes me come alive." And so I had that third surgery, and I was angry. I went into the hospital that morning getting angry that, man, I keep going through all this stuff. This is not right. And my surgery was delayed, and I was getting even more angry, and I turned on the television, and it was the day of the global tsunami in Southeast Asia, and people were dying. And I had a wake-up call. You think you have it bad? How lucky are you? You're still here. Well, fortunately, things got better. That surgery was a success, and things got going again, and my practice was going again, and everything was going okay. And I'm so lucky, every year my beautiful wife, Lisa, makes an appointment for me for a physical, and if it's in my calendar, I go, right? So she makes the appointment, and I go. I'm having an annual physical, and my doctor is a family doctor. She's connected. She was my grandmother's doctor. She was my parents' doctor. She knew the family history. So she's sitting there taking blood for the physical, and she says, Fred, prostate cancer runs in your family. Your dad had it. She says, at age 40, we should do our first PSA, but you're 37 and you're here, so why don't we just do it now? She thought she'd be diligent. And I said, same blood? She said, yeah. I said, great. And I thought I knew something about prostate cancer because my dad had it, and I said, well, that's great. I'll have a baseline. If it ever goes up, we'll know. So I had the physical, and I went off on my annual ski trip, and I got home. My wife, Lisa, said, Fred, the doctor called. What? She never calls after a physical. So I called the doctor, get on the phone, Dr. Christine, the prostate? She says, yeah. So I have to have a biopsy, but it comes back negative. And they say, hey, don't worry, come back in 6 months, you're going to be fine. So 6 months later, I go back and I have another biopsy, and that one comes back negative. And they tell me not to worry, you're fine, come back in 6 months. So 6 months later, I go back and I have another biopsy. And there I was in the hallway, as I say in the video, with my wife. She was crying, and I was scared. You see, because I knew what it took to overcome adversity. I knew what it took to fight. I'd already done that. And I had learned that when real adversity hits and you can't control anything, the only thing you can control is your attitude. And I did that by focusing on the opportunities that I still had, not the obstacles. And I also learned that you have to rely on other people. You can't do it yourself. And as people in my life started to learn that I had cancer, they were like, oh, Fred, what a bad time to get cancer, everything you've been through. I said, yeah, bad time to get cancer. What? Are you kidding me? There's never a good day to get cancer. No. But I had to wait 6 weeks to have the surgery, so my wife, Lisa, and I took the kids to Disney World, because that's what you do when you get cancer. Come on down to Florida. And then I went in and had the surgery. And there were some complications because of all the scar tissue and all my other surgeries, and the little 2-hour surgery I was promised turned into 8 hours. And there I was again on the couch. And it wasn't easy, right? There I am again. And oh, by the way, I'm on the couch after the prostate cancer surgery, and it's the global financial crisis. So you better get back to work, Fred. You better get back up quick this time. But you see, this time I couldn't do it. I knew you had to focus on opportunities, and I knew you had to rely on other people, and I couldn't do either. You see, as I started to share with people in my life that I was struggling, that I wasn't doing well, they were like, well, what's wrong with you? You beat it. You should be happy. You survived. And you know what? I wasn't. I survived, and that was great. It was better than a pine box, but let me tell you, surviving is not a lot of fun. And I wanted to thrive. I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to thrive again. As you can see, I wanted to fly. But it didn't happen overnight. I was struggling. As the stock market continued to go down and spiral out of control in 2009, and it hit its low in the summer, so did I. Spirit, mind, and body, done. And getting up again, for me, took a conversation with my closest friend, Scott, the guy I go skiing with. We were on the phone one day, and I was telling him, man, I'm not doing well. And he said, Freddie, I get it. I know you've been through so much, but I got to ask you, what are you waiting for? When are you going to do something about this? And I didn't have a good answer for him. I hung up the phone. I thought, yeah, man, what am I waiting for? When am I going to do something about this? When am I going to get up and do what I do and fight? And then I was able to dig down deep, and I started searching for answers because nobody was going to give them to me, right? And I had to get good at starting over, and I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I had to get some help. But what I did was I took the process that we use every day with our clients, and I applied it to the rest of my life. I started to write down where I am and where do I want to be in every part of my life, and I looked for the first most natural step, and I took it. And if it worked, I did more of it. And if it didn't, I did something else. And I went from the couch, wearing a diaper, in the dark, watching old John Wayne movies I'd watched with my father growing up, just waiting for the next 6 hours to go by so I could take another Percocet and kill the pain. I went from there to the top of the world heli skiing again, right? And for me, it started with taking the dog for a walk. That was the first step. I just had to get going again. And at the end of the day, how did I get to go heli skiing? My buddy and I figured out it was going to cost $3,600. We were going to go in 18 months if we each saved $200 a month for 18 months. There we were, living the dream. It was that simple. But it didn't happen overnight. And the first thing I had to do was take care of what was most important to me, was my wife and my kids and my clients. And to do that, I had to get out of crisis, right? So I went and got some help, and I got out of crisis, and that was great. I'd survived. But I told you, I wanted to do more than survive. I wanted to thrive. So that was about doing the things I loved, right? I loved to ski, I loved to fish, I loved to coach. And I needed every bit of strength and courage I could find along the way, because I started to look at why was I doing what I'm doing. Why do I keep coming back to be an advisor with all of this going on and how hard it is? Why do I do what I do? And I looked at the legacy I was given. See, my Aunt Carol, her husband, my Uncle Tom, when I was 5, he died of Lou Gehrig's disease, and he had 4 children between the ages of 5 and 13. And he was a truck driver, and he had no life insurance. And I watched my aunt raise those 4 kids on nothing but Social Security. My grandmother, she was stricken with polio when she was 5 years old, but she went on to survive that and thrive and have her own family. But unfortunately, her husband died when she was in her 50s. She had to go back to work. And she went and she became an executive at Bell Atlantic in the 1960s and 70s when women just did not do that. And she went on to have financial independence till the age of 94 when she died, and she did it by saving money every time she got paid. And then there's my dad. He got out of the Army with nothing but the shirt on his back. And fortunately, he met my mother and had a love of a good wife, and he raised 2 children, and he sent them both to college, and he owns his own home, and he's about to retire. So why am I an advisor? Why do I keep coming back? Because it matters. And then I started to say, well, what's the legacy I'm going to leave? Because I told you I didn't want to be the famous financial advisor from Paramus, right, who died without enough life insurance. What was the legacy I was going to leave? And I started to go back and have an impact on my wife, on my children, on my clients, on the kids I coach, kids who call me Coach Fred. And it wasn't until I was having an impact and leaving a legacy that it had all come together and I was thriving. So you can imagine how I felt this summer. The first time I heard about Confident Retirement Approach, he's right over here. I was at Peter Ramsey's senior partnering event. It was great, the best one I've ever been to. And he brought up Confident Retirement Approach, and he did it by asking some questions, and there I was with every single answer. And Peter's from Long Island, I'm from New Jersey, we can do this with each other. He said, hey, shut up for a minute, would you? And I sat in the back of the room going, yes, yes, yes. Because it's true, and it's because it's real, and I know it because I lived it. That was the 4 steps I had to take. I first had to take care of what was most important to me, what was essential, my wife and my children and my clients. But I wanted to have a lifestyle. I wanted to feel alive. I wanted to fish and ski and coach and do those things I love to do. And if I haven't learned that you've got to protect yourself from the unexpected, who would? And it wasn't until I was having an impact and leaving a legacy today that it all came together and I was thriving. So how is it that you're going to help advisors to embrace the Confident Retirement Approach? How are you going to champion it and help them turn the conversation from what we do as advisors to why we do it, which is so important? Because it wasn't until I knew why I was doing things and sharing that with other people that I was having an impact. And I got to tell you guys, I don't know if there's any greater impact that you can have today than helping advisors to do this, to embrace this thing. There's an old leadership quote that says, all great leaders have one thing in common. They helped overcome the greatest fears of their people in their time. And what's a greater fear of the people you ultimately lead, our clients, than that they're going to run out of money, that they're not going to be able to thrive? The confident retirement approach can help them thrive, and I know it because I lived it. That's the 4 steps I had to take. And you can have that kind of legacy. You can have that kind of impact. And there's no greater feeling, right, than having an impact on other people and seeing them achieve what they work so hard for. And for me, I learned this through the soccer team I coach. I got asked to coach my son's soccer team. It's a traveling team, you try out. And so suddenly there I am having to be a talent evaluator for 7-year-olds. Who's going to be the greatest soccer players? And I tell you, it wasn't easy. But I picked the team, and I figured I'm going to be a great soccer coach because I played soccer, and I'm going to be able to teach them how to kick and throw and dribble and do all those things. So there I was. I went at it. Here we go. And we got into our first season, and guess what? We got our butts kicked. 2 wins and 8 losses. It wasn't great. And people weren't happy with me. Some people were upset about playtime, whatever. And I had to go back and take a look at it and say, well, just like everything else, where's the team? Where do I want it to be? And more importantly, why am I coaching? Well, I'm not coaching because these kids are going to be professional soccer players someday. I'm coaching because I want to give them something, some strength inside when life hits them in the teeth that they can get back up again. And so I went back at it, and I got some help. Added another coach, added a trainer, and I started to share my story with the parents and the kids on the team as to why I was coaching, what I'd been through, and what I wanted to give to the kids. And the next thing you know, I was having an impact that I never thought I could. You heard me talk about Tommy and his mom. See, Tommy's got ADHD, and he's got 2 younger brothers, and his mom's a single mom, and they're little wild boys. And I get Tommy to do his homework. Sit him on the bench if he's not listening to his mom, if he's not doing his homework. And his mom, she brings the notes from the teacher to practice to show me. There's another boy on my team, EJ. And by the time he joined the team at 8 years old, his mom was divorced twice, and his dad left at age 4, and his stepfather left at age 8, and he was angry, and he didn't trust anybody. And then Coach Fred started showing up 3 times a week, just when I said I would. And maybe I had an extra bottle of water or a sweatshirt, or maybe I took him out for a slice of pizza with my son, or ice cream after a game. I didn't do much. But the next thing you know, EJ's mom, she could barely look at me without crying because he started to trust again. He started to thrive again. He started to come out of his shell. And then there's a boy, Shane. Shane is the last boy to make my team. In fact, I only picked him because I had 1 spot left and I had 5 or 6 kids I was looking at. And somebody in town said to me, I don't know how he plays soccer, but he's a tough kid and he comes from a good family. Oh, tough kid, good family, boom, put him on, right? And then Shane shows up, and he works harder than everybody else, and by 2 or 3 games into it, I don't even want to take him off the field. And then he starts struggling. A year later, I come to find out he was diagnosed with Tourette's. And one night his mom came down to the field. She was crying. And she said that her husband, Mike, was upset because he couldn't get home from work tonight in time for practice, and he hated not being with his son. They just didn't want to send him anywhere right now because he was struggling so bad. And his mom had tears in his eyes, and she said to me, Fred, I want you to know, I told Mike, what are you worried about? He's with Coach Fred. That's as good as being with us. And then she started to cry, and she said, I want you to know how much it means to me that he's on your team because we have one place we can send our son right now where we don't have to worry about him. One place where he comes alive. What did I do for Shane and the boys? I showed up. I showed up, and I gave him my all. And I was having an impact that I never thought imaginable. Well, guess what happened after I was having an impact? Yeah, we started to win. Then I had hard work, dedication, loyalty that I couldn't imagine before, and we started to win. And you see, in our league we play in, if you win your division, come in first or second place, you get rewarded. You get to move up to the next division and get uncomfortable, get your butts kicked again. So that was the goal I'd set for the team. And how cool is it that my 9 and 10-year-old boys that I coached, they bought into that we're going to move up so we can lose again. Right? And there we were this past spring with it in our own hands. It was the last game of the season. And if we won, we were moving up. So I said to the boys before the game, boys, you go out and do what you do, and we're going to win. And then we got down 1-0, we were losing. But they fought back, and they tied it up. It was halftime. It was tied 1-1. I said, boys, you do what we do best, and we're going to win. And they started to talk about the other team and the referee. And I said, whoa, it isn't about who we play. It's about how we play. And now they repeat that when I say that. So everybody repeat that with me. It isn't about who we play, it's about how we play. And I promise them, if you go out and do what we do best, it doesn't matter what they do, we're going to win. 5 minutes left in the game. Tomer scores on a hustle goal. And then my son Andrew and Tommy and Shane, they made play after play after play, and we won. And the parents said they never saw me jump so high. I was out in the middle of the field, and my son Andrew, he jumped up into my arms screaming, we did it, Dad, we did it. We're going to the B fight. I never felt so good about any win that I ever had. I never felt so good about anything I'd ever done on my own. But to see those boys I coach, I lead, work so hard for so long, and then achieve this thing that wasn't easy, it was the greatest feeling. When you lead with your heart beyond the game, you'll get hard work, dedication, loyalty, all those things. But more importantly, you can have an impact. And when you have an impact, then you can win. But to do that, I had to connect with those boys. I had to connect on a personal level. And I did that by sharing stories. I was always trying to find out, what do you got going on? What's going on outside of soccer? And I would share stories with them, what I'm doing outside of soccer, because it isn't all about soccer, right? And so when I was going heli skiing to celebrate beating cancer, I told the boys, oh boys, guess what? I'm going heli skiing. And they were like, wow, Coach Fred, that's great. What kind of trail are you going to ski on? I said, boys, we don't ski on a trail, we ski in the trees. And they said, well, how do you ski in the trees, Coach Fred? I said, well, here's what you do. You never look at the trees. You look at the space. Because your body follows your head, and your head follows your eyes. Whatever you look at is what you're going to hit. So if you look at the trees, you're going to hit them. You're going to. If you look at the space, you're going to go into that space and make a turn, and guess what? There's going to be another space after that, another space after that. And when you're really going good, you're not looking at the turn you're making now. You're looking 3 turns down the hill. That's what you're focused on. By the time you make this turn, it's already been set up. This opportunity is already taken care of. You are the head. You're the eyes. Where you focus, where you look, that's where we go. So are you focused on the opportunities 2 and 3 down the hill? The other thing I tell the boys about skiing in the trees is, well, 1, you better be good enough. 2, you better have the right equipment, helmet, right? And 3, never go alone. Never go alone. Because even when you're focused on the opportunities and you're looking 2 or 3 turns down the hill, sometimes you crash. And when you crash, you got to get up. And you might need help getting up. That's why you never go alone. Now, when I got up again, after getting knocked down, and I went heli skiing at the top of the world, and the helicopter took off and it showed me that view, I realized I did it. I did it. I did it. And I knew I needed to share our story. You see, because it's not my story. I'm not the only one that went through 10 years of turmoil. I'm not the only one that said I want to do more than survive, I want to thrive. Didn't all of you? didn't all of our clients, didn't all of our advisors, isn't what the whole world, isn't that what the whole country is saying today? Great, we survived 10 years of turmoil, and now we want to thrive. That's our story. That's what we do. We take people from where they are to where they want to be, and we help them thrive. And when I started to share my story, unbelievable things started to happen. The reaction was unbelievable. Fred, where's the movie? Where's the book? What are you going to do with all this? But you know what? That's not the real power of sharing our stories. The real power of sharing our stories is connection. Connection. And I couldn't have done what I did without all the people in my life. It's connection that allowed me to thrive, survive, and have an impact. It's all the people in my life. It's our friends and neighbors and family that kept the mailbox always full and the phone always ringing. They shoveled my snow, they took in the garbage cans, they fed my children, they watched them. It's independent contractors that I share an office with. When I had gone 2.5 months without a paycheck and then my intestines ruptured and I was fighting for my life, they chipped in out of their own pockets and paid my monthly expenses to help me stay in business. That's the kind of advisors we have. It's the doctor that caught my cancer early and saved my life. It's the assistants at the doctor's office who held me with kid gloves through the whole thing because guess what? I'm a horrible patient. And oh, by the way, a fainter. All the time, poof. It's my grandmother that set the tone for my life, that you work hard, you play hard, you give back to others, and you love unconditionally. It's my mother that told me, Freddie, if you never, ever quit, you can do anything. It's my father that completely changed the direction of my life. It's my clients and the kids I coach who let me in. It's my best friend, Scott, who the day I got cancer, he went home, cried with his wife, and then he got on the phone to double his cell phone minutes because Freddie was going to need to talk. It's my kids, Sydney and Andrew, that give my life purpose and meaning, and it's my beautiful wife, Lisa, who stood in the church with me 16 years ago and vowed to be there with me in good times and bad, and richer for poor, and sickness and in health, and then she showed up every day and did just that. Connection. That's what allowed me to survive, thrive, and have an impact. So how are you helping your advisors to share their story and connect? Because look what happened for me when my leader did that. Tom North, he's right over there. 3 weeks before I went heli skiing, Tom was coming into our office to talk about succession planning. Kind of good timing for me, right? I'm about to jump out of a helicopter in 24 feet of snow, wearing an avalanche backpack and a beacon and a shovel and all this stuff. And geez, Tom's going to come in and talk about what happens to my practice if I die or get disabled. I think maybe I ought to sit in on this session, right? Things were okay, and I went on the trip. So Tom knew my whole story. He'd been there through all of it with me. And he really wanted to know how my trip was going to be. He just said, Fred, I know you're busy, but when you get back from your trip, do me a favor and give me a call and let me know how it is. I'm so excited that you beat cancer. And I'm so excited that you're getting to go celebrate, and I just want to know how it is. So about 3 weeks after my trip, I had it in my calendar. Tom North's assistant set it up for us, right? If it's in the calendar, it happens. And I got on the phone with Tom. Fred, how was the trip? Oh, it was amazing. It was life-altering. It was the greatest thing I ever did for myself. And it happened to be the day that I made that video. And I said, I made a video today, Tom. He said, really? I'd love to see it. Why don't you bring it in when you get a chance? Okay? So I brought the video in. He saw it, started taking notes, and Tom saw opportunities in this thing that I didn't even see. And he said, Fred, can I share this? I said, yeah. He starts sharing it up the line. Next thing you know, this summer, I'm getting an email from Kim Sharon saying, hi, Coach Fred. I'd love to hear your story. What? And then Tom asked me to come and speak at a women's forum event, and I did that, and Bill Williams was there. And here I am today, getting to speak to all of you. Come on, it's amazing. And I can't believe it. I'm getting to share my story as Coach Fred. Right? I got knocked down, I got back up, I went looking for Freddie, that confident, happy guy that was there when all this started, and guess what? He was gone. And in his place, I found Coach Fred, a grateful husband and father, youth athletic coach, financial advisor, and cancer survivor. Now, I know that's a mouthful. But I want to be a voice for adaptive families, families that can continue to move forward regardless of a changing reality and go from where they are to where they want to be. And so when I found out I was going to get to speak to all of you today, I was humbled. I was awed. I was excited. And I was amazed. Humbled that a regular guy like me would get to come here and tell my story to all of you. Awed that there might be somebody in this room today that needed something and I could give them some small gift and help them get through. Excited because I know from hearing my story you would be reminded that when real adversity hits and you can't control anything, the only thing you can control is your attitude. You do that by focusing on the opportunities you still have and not the obstacles. And you got to learn to rely on other people, right? When adversity hits, focus on the opportunities and rely on others. That's what it looks like when you ski through the trees. What do you see? Do you see any space to make a turn? You got to look for the opportunities in life. What we do is we help people thrive. That's the view I saw at the top of the world. That's what our process can do for people. We can take them from where they are to where they want to be, and with a confident retirement approach, we can help them thrive, get to the top of the world again. And it matters. Right now, it matters more than ever. When you lead with your heart, beyond the game, you'll get loyalty and dedication and hard work, but more importantly, you'll be able to have an impact. And when you have an impact, then you can win. And I knew that you would be reminded to connect. To connect. Over and over again, it was the connection in my life that allowed everything for me to happen. It's connection that allowed me to thrive. It's connection that allowed me to survive. It's connection that allowed me to be trusted and have an impact and leave a legacy. And when I thought about the legacy you all could leave and the impact that you all can have, that's when I was amazed. You lead thousands of advisors that touch millions of lives. So, what's your story of overcoming adversity and setback? And what are the connections in your life that give you endurance and courage and strength, meaning, purpose? What is it that makes you come alive? What's the legacy you were given? And are you leaving your intended legacy today? And how does all of that show up with you every day as you lead? I'm Coach Fred. I'm an Ameriprise financial advisor. And I need you. We need you. To keep showing up every day and do what you do so well. But step it up. Connect and make it personal because it matters now more than ever. We need you to lead with your heart beyond the game and focus on the opportunities. Because where you lead, we will follow. I'm Coach Fred. It's been awesome being here with you today. How lucky am I to be here? Thank you very much for your time.